Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Battle Gamer, and today we're going to be going down a new track of videos for the channel, especially since, at least for the time being, why this class is awesome is on hiatus, I guess. I'm waiting for the next classes to come out, okay? I can't really do videos on the pre-made material because a lot of the classes outside of the testing phase changed pretty dramatically. So I don't want to do a video on those until their official content releases. So in the meantime, we're going to be talking about one of the arguably most important add-ons you can put onto your characters, and that's going to be your archetypes. Now, I am a major proponent of the free archetype dedication rule change where players get an additional feat every even level for archetypes so that they can diversify their character without necessarily taking away from the initial idea. Like, you can still be a full-blown monk and something else. I think it's a really good idea, and for our tables personally, I always make it where we'd use this, but you can only pick non-multi-class or class archetype dedications, so your characters end up typically more flavorful. Now, there's definitely some utilitarian style, archetype dedications that are more for, doing damage, doing whatever, very stat increasey. But a lot of them are very narratively driven and are very interesting when you attach them to a character idea. So, with that in mind, I'm going to be going over my top 5 dyslexia. My top 5 favorite archetypes for me personally. And now this is based on my opinion, and this is based on what I enjoy in the game, and not based on how good I think they are for builds, or even how good the archetypes are in general on an objective level. These are my favorites because I like what they add to the characters, I like what they add to the game, and honestly, I just personally enjoy these, and I use a lot of them on the characters that I play. So we're going to go ahead and start off with number 5, and that's going to be the Beast Gunner. The Beast Gunner is a very fascinating archetype dedication. It's a little bit of a more difficult one, and there's a lot of stipulations behind it. It's uncommon, you have to be able to use guns, and for a lot of the archetypes that I like, typically you can put them on most characters. Now, the Beast Gunner is one of the rare occasions I really like one that is a little bit more specialized, and in fact, Beast Gunner is almost a class unto itself. Now, some things I really like about it, it gives you spellcasting. You get some spellcasting benefits from being a Beast Gunner that you can channel through your Beast Gun. Not only that, but I really like the Beast Guns. I love the idea of taking a monster you kill and, doing a taxidermy tomfoolery to turn it into a gun. And it's really cool. And a lot of the Beast Guns are really interesting. And future Beast Guns that they will release, because they will be even more interesting. I love this idea. I love turning, defeated opponents into weapons or armor or whatever. Beast Gunner is perfect for that. There's some kind of synergistic connection. Like, you connect to the spirit of your Beast Gun, which is kind of messed up because you're the one who killed the creature and turned it into a gun. I don't know how much it would like you, but, that aside, I find it very, very interesting. There's a lot of the feats that I think are very cool. One of the ones I like in particular is Drain Vitality, because Drain Vitality is a very interesting action. You essentially take the vital energy from out of your Beast Gun, kind of powering it down. It can't use any of its special powers until the end of your next turn, but you get a number of temporary hit points equal to your level, and you attempt to immediately end a persistent damage effect on your character. I think this is really cool. I think it's a really good ability to have because persistent damage can be devastating sometimes. And I like the idea of it. It's very thematic, and it's just a really cool power overall, and not something you would normally expect from a build kind of around having a Beast Gun. It doesn't necessarily fit, but it rounds the archetype out very well. And Beast Gunner was honestly just very well designed. Not only that, but if we ever get access to it, Beast Gunner is also tightly tied to Arcadia, which is another continent on Galarian, and I would love to see more lore and information on that area. You get a little bit in Guns and Gears, but not nearly enough. And I would really love to see the culture where Beast Gunners come in, more in the forefront of a book. All right, number 4. This one is a pretty good one in my opinion. I really wanted to mark it a little bit higher, but some of the other ones I just like a little bit more, or they have some more stuff, but it's the Captivator. I love the Captivator because it is, if you want to play a very smooth talking, charismatic character, Captivator can add a level of supernaturalness to this. In fact, having these Captivator like abilities put onto like a vampire like character blends super well, and it can make a vampire like character much more interesting to a point where they're like meant for each other. And now with the new Book of the Dead out, and the vampire archetype dedication, which I will have to say, I haven't really looked too much into those archetypes yet and haven't had much of a chance to ruminate on them. So this list here might well change in the next, month or so, especially with Dark Archive coming out in that book. I'm very excited for. But, this list is the ones I've really liked up until this point, and Captivator has been one of my favorites. You get the ability to cast, I believe they come as occult spells, and they have to be either illusion or enchantment spells. And you can pick from, I believe, the occult and arcane lists when you're picking the spells for this list. And not only that, but this dedication actually has some interesting bonuses to it. Counter Charm is a really good reaction where you can attempt to stop an enchantment or illusion effect that you see being cast on you or an ally, and you can essentially use your own force of personality, your own special kind of magic to counteract that. Counteracting in this system is a little complex, and especially when it comes to counterspelling specifically, this is a really good ability because it's a lot more open. The only thing you need to do is just use one of the innate slots this archetype gives you to counter. So you don't have to have the same one exactly, and you can just attempt to counter it using, your own spellcasting ability. I think it's really, really good. It's very, very interesting. And something else about the Captivator that I think is very interesting as well is that this particular archetype gives you the ability to cast at a master level earlier than most other archetype dedications. The multi-class archetype dedications and most of the other ones that do give you some spellcasting, like Beast Gunner, which we just talked about a moment ago, you get at level 18 master spellcasting. With the Captivator, you get it at level 16, and that means a lot. There's a good chance your game might not go to level 18, but there's a lot higher chance you might get to level 16, and that's just where I think a lot of the Captivator really shines. I really like the idea, spinning it, of a character who's just so charismatic, it borders on the supernatural. My only gripe with it, I don't know why it starts at level 4. Like when you're using the free archetype dedication rule, you get one every even level, and if you want to take this at level 4, that means you can't really take anything at level 2. So I would recommend a GM just allow you to take it at level 2. I'm sure there's some balancing things kind of involved with it, but it's very awkward. It doesn't really work well with the free archetype dedication. And honestly, the dedication itself really doesn't give you anything interesting at level, the dedication itself doesn't give you more than other spellcasting dedications really do. So, and there's even a stat requirement, which there isn't necessarily for some of the other non-multi-class archetype dedications. I just find it really weird. I think they really just need to drop it down to level 2. It's not that strong. It's very limited on the spellcasting it provides. I just really like the aesthetics of the Captivator. All right, number 3 on the list is my favorite in-game faction, which is the Hell Knights. The Hell Knights are incredibly fascinating for a multitude of reasons. Their lore is really cool. the armor, the art. I love everything about the Hell Knights, and one of the biggest things I liked about the Hell Knights the most is, unlike, maybe the prior two iterations of this list, Beast Gunner for sure has a lot of requirements you need to meet first, and Captivator only works with like charismatic style characters. Almost any style of character can really be a Hell Knight, though you have to arguably make some changes for some of the classes, or at least your perceptions of them to make them fit into the Hell Knights. But as long as you have a character who really wishes to push law and, civil like industries or anything like that, Hell Knights are really good for that. And even though the organization is innately kind of more on the evil side, they're using the antagonists quite a bit in a lot of the media, a lot of the modules and everything like that. In the recent games, Wrath of the Righteous, the Hell Knights were capable of helping you, and you didn't even have to be evil for that to happen. And there are canonically neutral factions of Hell Knights that just want to, do the law. And there could be even good Hell Knight orders that really want to enforce lawfulness for the sake of all. The whole idea of a Hell Knight is really cool. If you want to really understand it, look up Regil from the Wrath of the Righteous on YouTube. I'm sure there's some great videos on him and his dialogue. He's a gnome who's kind of going through the bleaching because he's, very non-chaotic, which gnomes kind of need chaos and what's it called? Like interactivity to not die. And Regil's just like, no, law and order. I don't care if it kills me. It's the right thing to do. Very fascinating character. I really, really love that character. And it made me love the Hell Knights even more. And the armor. It's so good. Now I like spellcasters a lot. And the Hell Knight Signifier armor just looks so cool. And not only that, but when you go through becoming a Hell Knight, you can join one of the orders and get order benefits. The order benefits can do a variety of things, whether you're from the Order of the Gate and you get the greater benefit that allows you to summon a devil as contracted through the order, which is really cool. Or you join the Order of the Godclaw, which is the religious order. That's right. The Hell Knights actually made their own religion, taking the lawful aspects and the more tyrannical aspects of a lot of the gods in the lore and combining it into one ideal, actually forming a lawful force known as the Godclaw. And it's fascinating. And whether you're just like a fighter, it doesn't matter. There's so many different things you can do with the Hell Knight. I love their aesthetic. Maybe I'm a little edgy that way. I don't care. The armor is so good. A lot of their abilities are really interesting. Narratively, it adds to your character so much. And as long as you do it right, you can participate in most parties. With a Hell Knight, you just have to essentially be working for the greater good by any means. And you do so in the most organized, categorically you can do. And I think it's very interesting. And it's good conflict when characters kind of clash with that as well. So, overall, it's really, really good. The only reason why it doesn't beat out some of the higher picks on this list for me personally is mostly just because I use the other ones more. Hell Knights, I think, are very interesting characters, but in the end, they're just a character type. When you're playing a Hell Knight, you're playing a Hell Knight. They don't add to a lot of character types. Instead, they kind of take over what your character narrative is. But, unlike the next two, you can add my next two picks to any kind of character as long as you're trying to go for some certain kinds of builds. Which brings me to number 2 on the list, which is the Eldritch Researcher. Now, I am a sucker for Call of Cthulhu. I love the idea of the reformed cultist archetype that sometimes shows up in their media, in their games, or whatever. I like when normal people dip into the Eldritch and they come away with some otherworldly power. And the Eldritch Researcher is really good for that. And not only do I like it when normal people do it, I like when spellcasters, like a wizard who becomes an Eldritch Researcher, is also super fascinating to me, and I really like it. honestly, almost any class can pick up Eldritch Researcher, and you just add it on to your character. Whatever your main character idea is, your character either has a passing or fervent interest in the Eldritch, in the arcane, not this game's version of arcane, but the magic that defies the normal rules for magic. There's so many really good abilities in here. You get spell casting in it as well. You get a bonus to ritual casting, which I love. I think the rituals are super underplayed in the game currently, and I think more people need to use them. I know I definitely need to use more rituals in the game, or put them in for my players to, get access to. Ritual casting is super interesting, and the Eldritch Researcher also eventually gets the ability to summon an abomination to either be a minion, like as per normal for the summoning spells, or they can summon it and ask it a question about, a current course of action or some event that might happen within the next week. And as per the Read Omens spell, it will answer you, but in an even more enigmatic or ominous way before disappearing. I find that super fascinating. You're literally reaching out to the Eldritch gods to get some information on the future, and you're going to get something warped and twisted back. And I actually really like it. I think there's a lot of very interesting narratives to tell with it. And not only that, but when you're an Eldritch Researcher, there's just a wide variety of stories to tell with it. Whether you're reformed, whether you're trying to find the truth, maybe you lost someone to some eldritch entity and you're doing anything you can to get them back. There's a wide variety of reasons why a character might dip into the eldritch, and there's a wide variety of reasons how they use that knowledge and ability. I think it's really good. I think that every class can use it really well. I think Barbarian's kind of the only one that really suffers because, some of what the Eldritch Researcher does requires concentration, which barbarians can do while raging. But outside of that, hey, if you have a narrative where a barbarian is trying to, like, imagine Conan is trying to defeat like an eldritch monster and is doing everything in his power to like learn as much as he can. That's honestly a really interesting story, and I really, really like it. All right, last but not least, my number one on my list is the martial artist. So, okay, the martial artist I really like because I like hand to hand fighting combat characters. Martial artist is a really great way to pick that up without having some of the prerequisites needed to be a monk and without some of the pretext needed to be a monk. Not only that, but I feel like, martial artist provides a narrative reason why your character might be, a hand-to-hand fighter. It gives you access to a good number of the styles, not all of them, but a good number of them, especially with the Outlaws of Arkansas book that came out. The black dust or black powder punch stance is really, really interesting. And there's so much about the martial arts that I just like. Grievous Blow is also really good. It's a power attack you use with an unarmed strike, but unlike normal power attack, you add a level of you cut a level of resistance to the damage equal to your level. Normally when a character, uses a power attack, it's to do more damage because a creature has some kind of resistance, or it's more efficient to use it like as your second attack because then you're adding more damage for an attack you're more likely to hit than to attack a third time. This particular attack makes it so that as an unarmored fighter, or an unarmed fighter more like, you are going to cut through enemy resistances, and I think that's really cool, and I think that's really, really interesting. It also does a good amount of damage. This is the most utilitarian, archetype that I use regularly, and it's just because I like martial arts stuff, and I put it in a lot of my characters. I don't think it has nearly as much interest as pretty much all of the other picks on the list. That's my favorite because I use it literally all of the time to give a character unarmed fighting that I want for that character type, whether it's like a Magus or whatever. Plus, Pathfinder and Grievous Blow, they're both really good unarmed strikes that you can't normally get on Monk. So it's just another reason to pick up the martial artist. And, I like punching things. That's all I really got to say. It's all I really got to say. It's a guilty pleasure of mine, but I really really like the martial artist archetype. So with that, it's going to be the end of this video. I hope y'all liked it. I'm going to be doing a deep dive into archetypes starting next week. So we're going to be looking into, I think, probably like one archetype a week. So they're going to be slightly shorter videos. But I just want to talk about why a lot of the archetypes are very interesting, why I like them. And honestly, I want to show that there are no bad archetypes in this game. There's always a good situation or a good story for each of the archetypes. And I feel like sometimes the community can look past some of these archetypes because they just feel a little too wonky. And, it's going to be interesting. I hope you all enjoy. Archetypes are probably one of the best parts of Pathfinder 2E. And I think it kind of makes the multi-classing idea of like games like D&D and Pathfinder better, because you're not giving up what makes your character great. Instead, you're adding on to your character class to make a more diverse and interesting character. And I think that's absolutely the way it needed to go. So with that, good luck with your games. Leave the bad luck to me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.